For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marty Morales, and I'm a Rolfer and Rolf movement practitioner and teacher. I've been practicing for about 10 years, and I've been teaching for about 5 years. And I teach here in the city at the San Francisco School of Massage, and at the Massage Therapy Institute in Davis, and at the California College of Ayurveda in Nevada City. So I try to get around, and wherever the Amtrak will take me, I'll go. And I teach a variety of things, but one of the things that really kind of affects all of the things that I teach are body mechanics. And body mechanics is my passion. And I think it's because I went through the process of learning what body mechanics meant to me, and I saw as a student and then as a teacher how people are being affected by body mechanics, and sometimes positively, but mostly negatively whenever they get out and start working. So that's what this is about. The interesting thing is that this talk on body mechanics, you will not hear it anywhere else on the planet. Why? Because I'm the only one who's actually pushing this. There are 3 fantastic books on body mechanics if you ever want to read anything on body mechanics. The one that I do recommend is Lorianne Green's Save Your Hands. You probably have seen that in school, and she has a 2nd edition out. Fantastic instructor and great book to save your hands, quote unquote. There's another great book called Body Mechanics, A Functional Approach, blah, 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 by Barbara Fry. And that is also a really good book and shows lots of pictures on how to use your body. And then there's another book that's coming out fairly soon called Mastering Body Mechanics by me. So, yes, I know. So soon you'll see that one. And that one takes a different approach on body mechanics, which is why I say you won't hear this anywhere else on the planet, because I start to integrate the mind-body connection into body mechanics, how that affects the way you work. All right, so first question. What's the biggest reason for body workers falling out of practice? Injury. You know, the statistic is still good. It's about 10 years old, but it's still good. 80% of us fall out of practice within 3 to 5 years. That's just no. You know, that's pretty much it still. The number one reason is injury. We fall out of practice because we can't work anymore. The second reason is, does anybody know what the second reason is? Burnout. It's related to burnout, financial. You just can't make it. It's not financially feasible to be a massage therapist for a bit. I think they
go together.
Yes, I think they go together, absolutely, and I think because they go together, I think that they both are related to body mechanics. Yeah.
It's hard to work enough to get enough money. Then you're working too much.
Exactly, and then you go into this interesting cycle, right? Yes, which we'll get into. So, I just said that. I believe proper body mechanics can affect one or both of these reasons. We almost have to unlearn certain ways of behaving in order to employ proper body mechanics. So that may now sound different, where you went through school and you got your billion hours and you got your trillion years of experience, right? And you're putting all this information in, right? But now I'm telling you, you have to unlearn. You actually have to let go of some of these things in order to employ proper body mechanics. And that's one of the big things that's the biggest obstacle for folks that are just starting out. I know you guys aren't starting out, you're very experienced, but you may have actually realized this. But for folks that are just starting out, that's the biggest thing, having to unlearn. Why? Because a lot of people bring all of their past with them, right, when they're learning. They bring their dancing experience, which is great, yoga experience, which is fantastic, all sorts of other movement experience, and they believe that it's going to translate easily and beautifully onto the table as a body worker, and realize actually no, not completely. So why am I telling you this if you already have the years of experience and all this? Well, it's because when you start working on people, the same thing that you go through as a body worker, you may actually see your clients go through as athletes. Why are my shoulders always here? You know, and you pound on those shoulders for half an hour to an hour to an hour and a half, and then 3 days later, they're back up here, right? They have to unlearn they have to unlearn their way of living in order to find a different option, right? Okay. So there's several. Come on in. Come on in. So there's several reasons why we do things the way we do. And a small part of that is because we choose to do so. Does that make sense? You know, lots of reasons why we do the things we do. Small reason for that is because we actually make a conscious choice. So what does that mean? If a small part of it is conscious, then the rest of it is unconscious, right? Yeah, good. I know, it's early, I know. Oh, by the way, if you want a copy of this handout, it's completely free. There's no charge for this handout. I can email it to you. The reason it's free is because a lot of these pictures are, I didn't get rights or permissions to use these pictures, so you can just have them for free. If they're on the internet and it's, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that goes to my question. So part of it is unconscious, a little bit of it is conscious. Then I go to that question of why do we strain? Why do we strain? Look at this guy. He looks pretty strange right now, right? Look at this kid here in the dentist chair, right? He's in the dentist chair. There's all this equipment, right? Everything's sterile, right? And is he relaxed? Is he? No. Look at him holding that armchair. When you're in a roller coaster, you're at Six Flags. You're in the roller coaster ride. You're strapped in. You're harnessed. You're belted in. Everything. And yet, what do? You grab onto that bar for dear life, right? Why do we do that? Why does he do that? Why do we strain?
Well, most people don't have the point of view that life can be easy in anything. So we're used to making things hard.
Yeah. I have a great teacher of mine, Monica Kaspari, says, why make things simple when you can make them complicated?
Yeah.
Which is true. And how come it's become so appealing to strain? How come it's so cool? I was walking down Polk and there was this vitamin store. I don't think they call them vitamin stores anymore, do they? What do they call them now? I don't know. It's bulk stores or something. I don't know. And you see this big poster in the front. Become the animal. That's interesting. Now we want to become the animal. I want to look like him and become the animal and buy whatever that is. So it's become appealing to strain. And I believe that improper body mechanics are due in part for three main reasons. Kind of four, but three main reasons. Cultural, societal influences, physiological, psychological, and lack of knowledge of proper body mechanics. That's the big thing. That's the thing you won't hear anywhere else. This is why I think we are employing improper body mechanics. There it is, nice and pretty. Cultural, slash societal slash religious. Really, I'll go out on a limb and I'll say that. And physiological, psychological. So going to cultural, let me ask you a question. When you took a test, and let's say you're a little kid, you took your math test, whatever test, and you got big fat red C on it, right? And you were bummed out, you wanted an A. And you're walking home with your head drooped, with your test in your hand, big fat red C. You go into your house and your mom, and you show them the test, and mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, aunt, uncle, pet fish, whoever's taking care of you, tells you, that's okay, little, fill in the blank of your name. You just have to study, what would they say? Harder. You just have to study harder, right? What does that mean? What does that mean to study hard? If you put in a long day's work, until you're tired, you did great work though. And at the end of the day, your boss tells you, thanks for all your, what? Hard work. I know you worked really hard. What does that mean? Actually doesn't mean anything. What's the opposite of easy? No. What's the opposite of easy? Difficult. What's the opposite of soft? Hard. That's this, right? But yet, as a culture, as a society, almost every society, every civilization on the planet at this point understands hard, understands effort, right? So how does that translate to here? Well, you live your whole life studying hard, working hard, thinking hard is good, right? And then you walk into your massage class and you start to work, and then your partner tells you you can go, what? harder. And your clients will also say, what? You can go harder. Or I like it really hard. Now you're dealing with that same mentality. It actually doesn't make sense. Hard is a physical attribute as opposed to soft. But a lot of us will go into hard massage, right? We'll go into hard massage as opposed to working smarter, we work harder. But it's okay. It's okay. Don't feel bad. It's part of our society. It's part of our culture to think hard is actually a positive attribute. JFK brilliantly said it in his space race speech. We choose to go to the moon in this decade to do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And everyone applauded, cheered, yay, that's a good thing. But if he had said not because it is easy, but because it is difficult, like, what? Why do we want to do it because it's difficult? You know? Or what if he had said because it's the smart thing to do right now? And everyone, smart? I actually have to think about that. No, don't make me think. Just I'll give you the money, and then you can do whatever you want. So culturally, we understand that it's hard, right? So we work then hard, and sometimes we will slip into doing a hard massage, improper body mechanics, as opposed to proper body mechanics. And then we go into physiological influences. Everyone understands or has heard of the fight or flight system, right? Our sympathetic nervous system has been with us from the get-go, you know, for millions and millions of years, from the time we were up in the trees, if you choose to believe so, and then you came down from the trees and started walking around. We had to deal with threats in our environment, right? And we're walking, let's say we're walking down a path and we see a wild boar looking down at us. We choose to do a couple of things, right? At some point, all of our ancestors were in that situation. Walking down a path and some predator or some animal was there, and our ancestors chose to do one or two things, maybe three, but one or two things, right? One of them was what?
Run.
Maybe yours were ran. Yeah, you know, one of them was run, right? You walked up to it, like saw it, and like, okay, I don't have any weapons, I'm all alone, it's time to get out of here, right? Maybe your ancestors came down in front of it and saw it. Oh, okay, I've been kind of hungry, I happen to have a spear in my hand, my buddies are behind me, it's time to go hunting, right? So we either fought or we fled, right? We don't have that right now. Thankfully, we don't have any wild boars or bears or wolves coming down Laguna or anything like that. But we still have that mechanism in our body. We still react that way. Back in the day, our system was ingeniously engineered to work with the environment. We had peaks and resting spots. So we had that event, and then we were calm for a bit. We could go back into our cave or wherever we were and sit and hang out with a leg of whatever it was that we ate and we killed. But now we don't. We actually have peak and then chronic, right? This whole plateau, this whole steady state of stress over and over and over again. But anyway, before I won't go into that. Some of the things that happen when we're in fight or flight is our pupils dilate. Our pupils dilate. We start to shake. We also will slow down or stop all our digestion. Why? Why does our digestion stop? Well, all the blood leaves this whole core, this whole digestive system, and then goes to where? Goes to other areas that we're going to need them for, mainly our appendages, right? So our blood then goes to arms and legs preparing to either fight or run. Either one, we still need blood in our appendages. So imagine what that happens when that happens chronically, right? We run into all these digestive problems. So we prepare for muscular action or increase in muscular effort, increase in reflexes. So if you're in that stressful situation, most likely your pupils are going to dilate, you're going to prepare to use your muscles. Has anyone ever been in a car accident? Yeah? Has anyone ever jumped out of the car real quick right after the accident? You jump out of hey, what happened? What's going on, right? You didn't need to. Maybe you were okay, but you got out of the car and just had to do something, right? That was your sympathetic nervous system just firing. right? And you don't feel anything, you don't feel any pain for 2 or 3 days until 3-4 days later, oh gosh, I thought I was done, I thought I was fine, and your neck hurts, right? Your adrenaline is still running through your system. You're bathed in adrenaline, so you don't feel it. So you can get away from the bore, so you can get away from whatever, right? So it's a great system, but yet now it's actually it's actually not helping us with respect to body mechanics. Psychological influences. Why would we, and you're thinking, okay, that's great if you're stressed, but why would we stress out over doing our work? How could we stress, and how could we get led down that path of going to fight or flight when we're doing a massage? Here's a list of reasons. Tell me if I'm wrong. Wanting to please, wanting to perform, wanting to do a good job. Would you agree with me that that is probably one of the biggest stresses when you're at work? The thing that stresses you out more is wanting to do a good job? Yeah? Great. You're with all the other massage therapists that I've done this talk with. Yeah. Even the students, right? Remember, think back, way back when you were a student. Were you stressed out? Were you nervous about wanting to do a good job, wanting to work on your partner well? And what if your partner said, you can go harder? Then what happened? What did you do? Yes, you went harder. You used your muscles. You may have looked like that green guy in the beginning, right? Or at least felt like that green guy. So wanting to perform, wanting to please, wanting to do more in a session or in a day. For example, see more clients or do more on your client in 90 minutes or 60 minutes, trying to pack as much as possible in those 60 or 90 minutes. Maybe you've got other things on your mind, rent, bills, all this other stuff, and now you're working on this person, and yet, you have the rent and the bills kind of hovering over your head. Wanting to meet expectations, right? What people expect. You've been working for 10 years, you should be really good, right? Wanting to meet expectations, how is that going to stress you out? So, this is just a quick breakdown of the nervous system. If you want to take a look at it, this is what we're talking about right here, the sympathetic nervous system. So that's my contention. I think that as we stress out, as we want to perform, as we want to do a good job, we can stress ourselves out into improper body mechanics. We can physiologically put ourselves in a situation where we unknowingly start to use more muscular effort. And then there's the lack of knowledge, right? That was the other reason for improper body mechanics. Sometimes we are not taught how to use our bodies effectively. Sometimes.
Mostly
I
never.
try to be fair for all the instructors out there, but sometimes I think we're not taught how to use proper body mechanics. Think back into your classrooms. How much emphasis was there on body mechanics? When you looked at your instructor, did you think, wow, they're wearing 4-inch platform heels and showing me this technique? I don't know, is that the right thing to do? Right? I'm not kidding you. There was a school out there, hopefully not 4-inch platform heels, but there was a school out there where the teacher was teaching in heels. And I thought that's an interesting way to teach. But anyway, sometimes we're not taught how to use our bodies effectively in order to move efficiently, effectively, and safely around the table. So those are the three. Whenever I'm working, if I catch myself, if I feel that, I could be doing this differently, I'll ask myself, is this as efficient, is this as effective, or is this as safe for either the client or myself? Okay, a quick little graph. This is the distribution of cardiac output, blood, at rest and at exercise. Notice when you're at exercise, which can simulate a fight or flight response, most of the blood is going to your muscles, very little goes to your heart, kidney, liver, all of that stuff. But when you're at rest and you're not in fight or flight, then less goes to your muscles, more goes to your kidney and liver. So when you're stressed out, next time you're stressed out, just think, wow, I'm really starving my liver of blood. Hopefully that won't stress you out even more, all right? Okay. So the beginnings of proper body mechanics. When I teach the beginnings of it, I talk about awareness exercises, and we can go into some of these if I can use a demo. Maybe you can use this space a little bit. We can use this area right here. If I can get a volunteer, please. Alrighty, thank you. Is it Dana? Dana. Alrighty. So the first one is the off balance test. And the reason I do this is because a lot of us, for whatever reason, we do our effleurage in this manner, right? We're standing this way and we're doing our effleurage like this, right? Maybe that's how you were taught. Maybe you think, oh, well, this is the goddess pose in yoga or whatever, right? Well, I'm a mere mortal, so I choose to do it a little differently. But here we're actually off balance. We're off balance in this position. And just come on over here, Dana. Yes, sir. And I can show you how off balance I am. Just stand right here and just put slight pressure right here on my sternum. And there I go. Right? I'm off balance. Simple enough, right? But what if I choose to put 1 foot forward? Right? If I choose to put 1 foot forward and put the same amount of pressure, great. I'm not going anywhere, right? Same with Dana. I could do, just as she's standing, I can give her just a little slight pressure and she would go forward. She's got 1 foot forward, which is great. If I give her just a slight pressure, she's not going anywhere, right? So that's the simple balance test. You can try it on your own later on and convince yourself, oh wow, maybe I shouldn't be standing this way. I'll use you in a second. No, stay with me.
Okay.
So if I'm standing this way, right? Is this kind of mimicking any other type of maybe thing we do every day? Every day, maybe you did it on your way over here. Walking, right? We're walking, right? And as we're walking, what direction is my energy going? Which direction is my force going? I kind of forward. Great, thank you. Right? And this effleurage, what direction does the effleurage go? Forward. Right? So this effleurage now, almost this exploration of this forward and backward energy. Right? I'm standing with my feet hip width apart, not too wide, not too narrow. Right? Just like this, as if I'm about to take a walk. Here I am, and I can go forward and back, right? Great for Swedish, right? Great for Swedish. So, and I'm balanced. Am I balanced? Yeah, I'm balanced in this direction, right? Technically, we're not really balanced, because we're always off balance somewhere. Dana can come over here to this angle and give me a slight push, and off I go in this direction, right? But this way, I'm good, right? And this is essentially a demonstration of the effleurage, right? What other stroke do we have in Swedish? There's the effleurage and there's the petrissage. And the petrissage, some of you do the petrissage like this, which is great, which is fine. I teach it like this. And now, in that case, now I'm standing with my feet at my sides and in this position. Am I balanced in this position? Actually, I am, because now I'm going in these directions, right? All right. So that's that. So that's kind of Swedish. Now let's go into a little bit of deep tissue, right? Because you all do deep tissue here, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Good. And maybe you were taught to push off with your back foot. Maybe you were taught to use your weight, which is great. And the way I do it is just slightly different, and we call it an exploitation of gravity. We exploit gravity, and a great exploitation of gravity is to lean into it. So, for example, let's lean over here, and go ahead and give me, yes, good. And don't push me just yet. Just kind of resist me from going forward, right? So let's say I want to go that way, but Dana's not letting, right? But what if I use all of my head muscles, right, to go forward, right? Resist it. I'm using all of my head muscles, right? Why am I not doing it? I'm working really hard, but yet it's not happening, right? What's happening, right? You just have to work harder, Marty. All right, I'll use all of my upper body. And just really tense up and just really go forward. I can't, right? Put 1 foot forward so you can take it. Good, okay. Yeah. What if I use my whole body and not effort at all? What if I just lean forward?
Uh-oh.
Okay. What if I just do that, right? What if I lean and use my whole body weight instead of using muscle? And here, now I have all of this accessible to me, right? Let's now you try it. So just 2 feet together and lean, and just stay in like a plank. I've never lost all your weight. I've never lost anyone yet. And look up. Look where you're going. Good. Go ahead and keep leaning. I got you. I got you. You're not going anywhere. All of that is accessible to you.
All that weight.
All that weight is accessible to you for deep tissue, which is, I mean, how much, it's not a lot. So. How much do we actually need for deep tissue work? How many pounds per square inch do we actually need, you think, to get really in there? I'm talking working on the animal guy. How much do you actually need? What do you think? What do you think is the number?
70 pounds.
70 pounds per square inch?
Square inch.
In your elbow, you're leaning in there. How many pounds per square inch do you think you need?
5, 10.
How much? 15, a little more. A little more. You can go up to 35 pounds, 40, 45 pounds per square inch, and that's a lot. That is a lot of pressure on someone in a localized spot. Okay? You will probably not go that much, maybe on the Incredible Hulk, but not on a whole lot of people. Okay? And let's say, I said what, 45 pounds per square inch? I would guess that Dana weighs a little more than 45 pounds. A little bit more. So,
At 100.
So she already has all the resources to do really deep work. And that's what I'm getting at. So all of you here in this room can do fantastic deep work if you use your whole self. And this is one thing that I talk about, using your whole self. Just as she did when she leaned. Right? Okay. The bicep test. Ooh, fantastic. Lots of books. Dana, can I use you again?
Sure.
Thank you. This is a test that I learned at the Rolf Institute. And it kind of blew me away when I went through it. So first of all, just go ahead and bring your hand out just like that. Perfect. And I'm going to put this pen on Dana's hand, just like that. And I'm going to ask her, do you feel the weight? I know it's really light, but do you feel the weight of that pen on your hand and the pressure of the pen on your hand? It's not a whole lot, but when I take it off, you don't feel it anymore. When I put it back on,
there's more of the sensation of touch that it's like on my skin. It's not that heavy.
Instead, yeah, because it's pretty light.
It's really light.
Yeah, but you still feel it slightly, but you still feel it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, great. I'm going to borrow some of your books. The Heart of the Buddha. I'm gonna tell me if this is too many, okay? Too many books. I'm gonna put some books on her hand. Okay? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Is that
Yeah.
okay? All right. Let's play with these 3 books.
Okay.
So I've got the books are on her hand, and I'm gonna put the pen back on, and I'm gonna ask her, do you feel that additional weight of the pen as I put it on the stack of books?
No.
And when I take it off, do you feel
No.
the weight that's taken off? And do you feel when I put it back on?
No.
No. So what's going on there? Why is she not feeling it when she actually did feel it before? Thank you.
Yeah.
Because it's not significant compared to what's already.
It's not significant compared to what's already on there, but yet she could feel it before. She can't feel it afterwards.
Because she's so tense.
Right. It's not significant because there's already a load on her bicep. And because there's already a load on her bicep, she can't feel. So imagine how that translates onto the table. If we start to use our muscles and start to employ muscle to work, we are now essentially putting a load on these muscles, and now we start to lose sensitivity. We start to lose what it is that we're actually doing, how deep we're actually going. So it's a sensitivity piece, basically. All right. Real quick, going into the principles of proper biomechanics for Swedish. The principle for proper biomechanics for Swedish is movement. So we need to be able to move, again, efficiently, effectively, and safely around the table and our client. The whole self is involved. Just as you saw me when I did this effleurage, what was moving when I did this effleurage? All of me. And this is where I deviate from a lot of instruction, from a lot of training that you may have already heard, because you may have been told it comes from your hips, or it comes from your legs, or it comes from your core or your hara. And I say that it doesn't, that it comes from everything, that it comes from the whole self. And the whole self also includes what? The mind, not just the body. So when I'm actually, and I know we're getting a little far out there right now, maybe for a Tuesday morning, but when I'm doing this effleurage, what actually started this effleurage was my understanding of the whole self. And that happened in my mind. So when I understand that I'm moving my whole self, then what happens? My whole physical self will follow. Right? So it's, where is this coming from then? This movement that you see. You're seeing it. You think you're seeing it. You're seeing it, right? But it's coming from some other place, right? Wherever the mind is. So that's pretty interesting when you think about that. So the whole self is involved in these movements. The effleurage is a forward-backward movement, just as I showed you, right? It's a forward-backward. The petrissage is a side-to-side movement, right? And all other strokes in Swedish are, and there's all of those strokes, all other and subsequent strokes are variations of these movements. So if you get this down, and if you understand the principle is movement, if you understand the principle is movement, then any other stroke, again, is just a variation of those two. Pretty interesting. Here, oh, I think I'm wearing the same shirt. Here I am, just kind of demoing the petrissage. Notice that I'm moving my whole body. Sometimes what I'll see people do is just move their top, and do the petrissage like that. That's actually not a whole self movement. That's just the top. And you're setting yourself up for some repetitive strain, some overuse. Here's the effleurage. And then we'll go into deep tissue in a second. But going back to the physiological piece, that we stress ourselves out, right? What can we do then to not? If we find ourselves, let's say we rode over here and a dog chased us, right? We're stressed out. Let's say we do an intake on a client and they are a difficult client. They are a high maintenance client. They want this, 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 and this, and this, and it's a half-hour session, right? What can you do to get yourself out of that fight or flight? First of all, let's be aware that we're in fight or flight. And now that I've told you, you all now have that awareness. It's all now recorded in your brain. But some of the things that we can do are, some of these things are grounding exercises. Things that we can do to ground ourselves, to get ourselves out of that sympathetic nervous system response. Does anyone own a dog? Anyone? Okay, two people. Have you ever had your dog kind of, maybe they're out on the beach or whatever in the park, and your dog maybe gets into an argument with another dog, and they get into a scrap, and then they're done, and your dog runs to you, and have you seen what your dog does? What's one of the first things that your dog does after that? Have you seen your dog shake it off?
Oh,
Yeah. What that is a sympathetic nervous system reset. They instinctively know to shake it off. So, yeah. And we even say it, it's in our language, right? Shake it off, just shake it off. It's fine. All right, let's go, right? All right, it was a bad experience, okay, just shake it off. It's one of the things we can actually do. We can physically just shake it off, right? These are sort of things that we can do to shake it off. Breathing exercises. If anyone employs any breath work in their meditation practice, that's great. If you do the alternate nostril breathing, the Anuloma Viloma, I think it's a fantastic way to reset yourself. If you do it in the morning, you're going to see results very quickly. It's a great way to ground yourself, and it's a great meditation practice. Meditation. meditation is part of a meditation practice. Fantastic, right? Something you can do. And when I say meditation, it can be, you can go off to the Zen center and you can go meditate, right? But sometimes just taking a walk down the block, being next to a tree, right, is a form of meditation. Just being in quiet, not checking your text and your email while you're eating. Just eating, right, it can be a form of meditation. If that doesn't work for you, then you can go to an actual structured meditation offering, the meditation center. For me, jacuzzi is great. I love the jacuzzi. I love just to be, if I see green, if I see a tree, I'm good. If I just sit down with a cup of tea and just hang out by myself, not check anything, force myself to be quiet for 20 minutes, that's a great way to just reset. But jacuzzi's kind of my thing. You can do anything like that. It's a form of kind of, for me, it just kind of washes it away, and I'm ready. Deep tissue. When we go into deep tissue body mechanics, it involves time in the sense that we slow down, and it involves the exploitation of G, the exploitation of gravity, right? I'm going to show you some techniques, but you look at this guy right here, you see how this is the boxer's jab. You look at that hand that's forward, and which foot is forward? That leading foot, right? Just like a boxer's jab, we also can use that same technique, that same body mechanic structure to lean in and to work, using that same foot forward, right? Possibly a little different than how you were taught. Here, this young man, 1963, Bruce Lee, was in Long Beach, and he showed his 1-inch punch, and same thing, lead foot forward. He pushed off. You see that left foot? He pushed off to make it explosive. We don't need to push off to get into our clients' backs. We actually need to be slow and sink, right? And then we move, right? Okay, oops. Important question. How should it feel to do proper body mechanics? What does it feel like? For the practitioner, it should feel effortless. It should feel simple yet effective. You may ask yourself, it doesn't feel like or you may tell yourself, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. Then you're doing great work. And I think that's a big thing that we have to unlearn, because we always feel like what? We need to be doing something, we need to be feeling it, right? What was that term? No pain, no gain, right? No pain, no gain. Does anybody still believe that? No pain, no gain? No?
Clients do.
Clients do, absolutely. And you can share this story with them. There was an article, and Google it, because now I read it years ago, and it's kind of, it's not as tight as it used to be. But there was a writer who followed that, no pain, no gain. Where did it come from? And they think it came from a weightlifter back in the 50s, I believe. Very famous guy, really great guy. I think he wrote some books and all that. And he studied with a guru. And out of his studies with this guru came his term, no pain, no gain. And you see this guy, you see how successful he is, and you think, oh yeah, must be good, right? Well, then the writer then followed the guru and asked him, is it true, no pain, no gain? And the guru apparently said, I don't know what you're talking about, no pain, no gain. What I meant was no struggle, no going outside of your comfort zone, no growth or progress. And when you look at it that way, that kind of makes sense, right? But of course, the Western mind will shrink wrap that into one little pill that says no pain, no gain, right? Which kind of makes sense, but now you think of it the guru way, and that's a little more palpable. So you can tell your clients that. So for us, on our end, we shouldn't feel pain to have gain. For the client, they could feel more connected with you. They could feel that it's deep yet not painful, right? They could feel that, oh wow, it didn't have to hurt. But if you're dealing with someone who believes no pain, no gain, then I suggest one of the things you could do, hopefully you can do it here, is to work on them a little bit and then check. Don't wait the whole hour. Hopefully that's okay. Don't wait the whole hour. Oh, by the way, I used to work in spa. I was in spa world for about 5 years. And I'm surprised I never got fired, because I was doing things out there. I was the maverick. I was the guy who was getting on the table. I was a guy who was making them walk in their underwear, up and down, getting them off the table, checking, blah, blah, blah. But people like that because they like the results. So I'm not telling you to start jumping on the table or anything, but reassess before the hour's over. So you now get them to convince themselves, oh wow, they didn't have to pound on my back like a gorilla, and it actually feels great. This person must know what they're doing. Wow, Earth Body's an awesome place. I'm going to come back and Yelp and Facebook and tweet and all. Okay, anyway. So that's that. So that's the talk. I'd like to, we have a table here. I'd love to show you a couple of things. But before I go into that, are there any areas where any of you would love to see kind of some focus or would love or have questions? Like, Marty, you know, how do you work this, or how would you work this? Or Marty, I have difficulty working on this area. What would you do?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you do when you have a client who comes in and they are of the, like, no pain, no gain mentality, and you check in with them, and they are still wanting more? At what point do you continue the conversation, or, like, how do you field it?
If they're still wanting more, it's an interesting thing. And, you know, I love to ask questions. I love to ask questions. And when someone, maybe you work and their shoulders feel great, for example, and they may say something like, oh, but I want you to pound in there, or I want you to really get in there, maybe? Is that what I'm...
Yeah, maybe.
You know, there are ways to work that are still completely effortless, that will get into their soul, that will get into their deep, deep self, and you don't have to do much. And if they want to feel that, that's fine. There are ways to do that. As a Rolfer, I can switch that on if I want to, because I know that working the fascia and working certain areas of the fascia can light that up. But do we want to do that? What happens if you get really, really deep into someone really quick? They're going to go into that fight or flight themselves. Have you ever seen anyone? Pupils dilate, right? They get that look, right? And then what happens? They tense up, and then you can't get in there anymore, right? So now there's that vicious cycle of you're not able to work now, right? So they now actually have to come down. They have to get out of that sympathetic nervous system. How do we do that? What are the ways that you guys get to do that for folks? You have them breathe, right? That's the big way, the big reason why you have people take a full breath. Take a full breath, take a few, and then you can go in there. Hopefully they're a little more relaxed. But for that person, going back to your question, again, I have lots of questions for that person. Really, do you want to feel, you know, what is it about it that makes you want that? One of the big things that I do is ask them, how does that feel? Does it feel better? And you may actually see them think, you know, before they respond, and they may say, yeah. And they may actually be upset that they're not feeling it anymore. Like, yeah, it feels really better. And they start to move their arm all over the place, and they may think, well, you know, how did this happen? I didn't, you know, that other place I go to over there really beats me up, and I'm sore for 3 days, and then I feel great afterwards. Well, that's not really the best way, you know, and if they even bring that up, you can tell them, well, you know, what's really happening is that you got injured, and now you're recovering from that injury. Especially if you're sore for days and you're bruised or whatever, you actually got injured. So I would have them kind of answer their own question. You know, I would open it up that way, because that's really the way that they're going to learn. That's really the way that they're going to grow as a person and grow in their awareness of themselves.
Would you mind giving maybe a few examples of how to start that conversation?
Oh, how to start the conversation?
Like in the intake before they've experienced your work.
Ooh,
and they
okay,
want
we can
deep
absolutely
tissue.
go into that. So in the intake, and let's say you're saying that they want deep tissue work.
Right.
Okay. You know, I guess let me run through my own intake. What I usually do is ask my clients, what can I do for you? What can I do for you today? You know, I'm sure here you confirm the appointment, right? You're here for a 60-minute, 90-minute session of whatever, right? any area of focus. Do they sign intake forms here? Okay. Or and also like a form of what area of focus, that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
We have these little pictures on the back, and
Oh, fantastic.
oftentimes we get them back in the little room to therapists, and the entire body is like circled. It's like, okay.
Right, and you want a half-hour session, and you want all of this, right?
Yeah.
What you can do is say, okay, we've got a 60-minute session. What can I do for you today in these 60 minutes, right? And they give you the whole long list, and you can say, let's prioritize. What would you like me to work on first, and what would you like me to work on next? And let's say they'll give you something, right? And then they'll say something like, going back to your thing, that I want really deep work, right?
Deep tissue
I want deep tissue.
as opposed to deep work.
Okay.
They don't understand that deep doesn't have to be deep tissue.
Okay. So let's say they want deep tissue work, and you can say, absolutely, we can absolutely do that. And I check in and make sure that the pressure is okay, and the level of depth and the rate of depth is okay with them. Even if they're on the table, even without getting them off the table, you can still check in and say, how does that feel for you? So I want them to kind of answer, I want them to give me some feedback. And I think that's important. When we're working with folks, it's important to get feedback and to find out where they are, At that point, I can keep on going and then check in with them again at the end. If you have time to check in with them at the end, how is that feeling? Have them move that shoulder, neck, whatever it is. Take it from there. But what else about the question? Tell me a little more.
Well, like what we offer isn't really based on deep tissue.
Okay.
And oftentimes that's what people want. So
Okay.
so I'm receiving calls and trying to describing the way that the session can go deep and meet their expectations without them, experiencing a deep tissue based session.
Okay. So the service is not actually called deep tissue, right? Okay. But they come in asking for deep tissue. Is that true?
And most of us end up doing deep tissue in
Sure.
a lot of sessions.
So what are some good ways in the intake for therapists to describe that they can get deep without having, without deep tissue? Maybe deep tissue isn't the best way to get there.
Okay. So I'm hearing that you want to get away from using that term. Is that true?
We make a distinction where we don't have a 60 or a 90. We have a ground, a repattern, and unravel. They're basically like, how do you want to feel afterwards? And each of the sessions incorporate deep tissue.
Sure.
So you couldn't book a deep tissue session at massage.
Got it.
Because all the therapists incorporate deep tissue in their
Got it.
session. So sometimes, not really most of our clients, but we do have a handful of folks that come in. They say, yeah, I'd really love some really deep work, and that's fine. And some of the things that we've talked about in some of our own training is, what does deep mean? And sometimes it's depth into the body, but it can mean some other things.
Absolutely.
So I think the question that we're trying to get to is, what do we do in the intake when we have that opportunity to educate a little bit, but also just field that process? Is that right, Ashley? I mean,
Yeah, and I
what do
think
you want to
the other thing a lot of us are just playing around with is, for people who come in and they just really, I really like deep work, go as hard as you can, I like to feel sore, that kind of thing. We're trying to play with the wording of, we incorporate deep work, but we're trying to get a step back from, we're not going to give you a whole hour or a whole hour and a half of I'm giving you all my, what I mean?
Right. Good. Yes. So going back to, if you don't want to incorporate that term deep tissue and you have the three services, what are they called? Grounding?
Ground, repattern, unravel. There's no problem with using deep tissue.
Unravel.
We are already using deep tissue. I think it's talking about how do we work with the mentality that I want deep work, because I think there is something that I'm wondering is, does the therapist ever say, no, I'm not going to go to whatever you want to do. I'm here to serve you, but I'm not going to just perform for whatever you want. I've really made it a point to not say, where do you want me to work?
Okay.
That's what that drawing is for.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's a difference between really kind of getting a sense of like what's going on with their body, but also feeling like it's a conversation.
Yes.
So what do you do in that situation when you have someone come in that they want really deep work? It's like, yes, of course we do deep tissue, but it's not an hour and a half of deep tissue.
Got it. So I think in all services, ground, repattern, unravel. I like the unravel. Very interesting. I like that term. You can speak to how all of these services, the therapist can access all layers of tissue in any of these services, and I believe that you probably already do. You access and you go to all layers. You can go superficial. You can go deeper layers of the tissue as necessary, and hopefully that's how you can get away. You can, for the person who says, I want hour and a half of all your weight on your elbow on my neck, then you can say, that may not actually, that's great, and in that case again, I like to ask questions. I like to ask questions. Why is it that? Is it because that's what helped you before, or is it because that's what you think you need? So you can ask questions. Again, I love to ask questions. I get to that deeper part. When I ask, how can I help you? That is the beginning. Yeah. This is great, by the way. This is great. But this, when as a Rolfer, we may start with shoulders, but we may end up working somewhere else. We may end up working abs because I asked questions and I found out what's happening here. How can I best serve this person? I like the saying, the customer's always right sometimes, because I think it's true. Because I do believe the customer's always right sometimes not. But what you can say for that person who wants an hour and a half of blah blah blah, gorilla on top of them, is say, again, if you get to a point where you're asking all these questions, and find out that someone up the street did that and they felt great 5 days later after they removed the cast, you can say there that is one way to do it, absolutely, but there's also another way of doing it. That is not the only way, and we can work a little bit here, do some integrate some deeper layer of tissue work, integrate some deeper tissue work as need be, but a whole hour and a half actually may not serve you. So you can come to them from that point of, hey, I care about you, I want to serve you best, and this is what may be better for you. Let's try it. Let's work a little bit. Let's give it 10-15 minutes. How are you feeling now? How is that feeling? Wow, I didn't know it could be like this. It's just a lot of times what I used to hear in the spa world, because I would get that a lot. You won't believe how many times I would get, you can go as hard as you can. You can't break me. And then I remember one person came in, solid like this, you can't break me. And like, okay, that's fine. And I saw that as an invitation to hang out, sink in, work the tissue, and then I was asked, what is that? What are you doing? I said, this is deep tissue. No, I want Swedish. Like, okay, and then that's what you get, So we went up to the superficial layers and we worked that, and to them that was deep work. So, going back to I think what you said, or you said, deep has so many different things. You can do a Swedish massage and be profound, and do profound work, which is another layer of depth. But most people think, when they think deep tissue, they think pound on me for a bit. Sometimes they may not get the deepness of other modalities.
So is it basically what I'm hearing is you just find out what their ultimate goal is, because when they say, I want deep tissue, I want you to get in there.
Thank you.
Well, why?
Thank you.
What is it that's underneath that desire? And
Thank
then
you.
address
Absolutely.
that.
Let me ask you a question. This is gonna answer, I think, a lot of your questions. What business are you in? What business are you in?
people pleasing.
The business of aiding other people's healing.
Health and wellness.
Massage.
Customer service.
Yeah.
Close.
Customer service.
You're in the business of sales.
Yeah.
You're in the business of sales. There's no other way around it. This is sales business. Okay? And you as a massage therapist, either here or in your private practice, you're in the business of sales. But what does that mean? Maybe you just kind of threw up in your mouth a little bit. Like, I didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do with my life, right? But what does it mean to be in the business of sales? You're actually, what that means, sales sounds, down, doesn't it? Sounds evil. But before, way long ago, we didn't call it sales. We called it relationships. And business of sales is the business of relationships. And that's what you're in. You're in the business of relationships. You're all in the business of creating, establishing, and maintaining relationships. If you think about those three, and these didn't come down from the mountain, I didn't bring them down from the mountain in tablets. This is stuff that's been told, that's been learned, that's trained to a lot of high-profile sales folks. And I do suggest that one of the best things you can do for your massage career is to get sales training, is to understand what that actually means. Because we are in the business of relationships. Again, create. You created the relationship by creating this store. Establish. They come in, or they call, or they email, and now you're starting to establish that relationship here, right, as the owners. As a massage therapist, once they give you this, right, you go through and you're done, and what do you guys do? Once your client is done with the session, do you say bye-bye? Never hear from you again, that's okay. I don't want your email address. I don't want any way to contact you. That's okay. Maybe you'll come back, maybe you won't. No. What do? You maintain that relationship, right? You want a mailing list. You want a newsletter. You want a website to keep maintaining that relationship, right? So that's the business that we're in. We're in the business of relationships. What do you do in a relationship?
You feed it.
You feed it. How do you feed? How do you feed that relationship? How do you do that? What do you do?
Happy.
Listening.
What was that?
Keeping them happy.
Keeping them happy. Now you're all telling me lots of things about how you guys deal with your relationship. You talk, you communicate, right? You listen, you talk and you listen, right? You go back and forth. You keep talking, you keep talking. What did I say in the beginning when we got to this card? I love to ask questions. I love to ask questions. That's how I get to the overall goal, right? That's a relationship. Think of it as a relationship. I guarantee you success. Guarantee you success. Not overnight success, but I guarantee you success. 10 years from now, I'm going to show up at your book signing and you're going to say, Marty, that was great. And that was a fantastic, that really changed the way I look at things and blah, blah, blah. So this is great. This is sort of like, okay, I get your information. Now let's talk. Now let's find out what's going on, right? They may have circled big X on shoulder, right? And it goes back to what Den was saying, I don't just work there. I'm going to ask. And I bet you like to ask questions. I bet you like to hear, have a conversation. And I know you only have a couple of minutes, if that, to do an intake, but you'll get very adept if you're not already at getting that information quick, asking those questions. Maybe you have to ask some more questions while they're on the table. But I think overall that's sort of what I would do. Does that answer? Kinda? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Any other questions with regards to that? Any other?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there situations where with body mechanics, is it mainly deep tissue that's what throws body mechanics off? What about when it's not really deep, it's just Repetitive.
Yes, yes. Either in Swedish or any modality. I think one of the things that happens is any modality can throw body mechanics off.
So is the instruction about changing up how we work, or if we have a flow, finding how to do that flow again and again where we're engaging our body in a better way?
In a different way. Yes, 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 yes. And if you have your flow, if you have your thing, no one ever wants to change you, right? And the other thing is that I would never tell a massage therapist, don't do it this way, do it that way. Why? Have you ever told your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, don't do it this way, do it that way? Do they listen? Do they do it that way? No, of course not. You're not going to change people like that, right? So what you can say is, here's the way you're doing it, and here's another way that you can do it. Here's another option. That's how I do it as a teacher. That's how I do it as a rolfer. I give people options, and do my very best not to ever go into that space of change it to this, right? Love the lean, but when I'm doing Swedish, I will move, right? Again, principle is movement, right? The principle of Swedish is movement. But when I'm doing deeper work, I'm leaning, and I can lean just like this. And you may think, wow, he's not really in plank, right? He may be actually keeping, bless you, may be keeping his pelvis out a little bit. Sometimes all you need is just a little bit of pressure to do deep work.
That's a lot of pressure.
And how much am I efforting? How much am I efforting? Thank you for that feedback. Great client. How much am I efforting?
You don't look like
Obviously
Nothing.
not much,
Nothing.
right?
I could be holding a drink with an umbrella in it. And that's how easy it is, right? Not that I would, and not that I've been doing that here at Earth Body, okay? All right. So I could be doing that. I could also be, sometimes I like to get down on a knee or sit on a stool. You guys have stools in your spaces. You can hang out and lean. But I love to have both hands. I love to have both hands to have that connection with my client. I don't like this, the Captain Morgan. I call this Captain Morgan, you know? I don't like that. I like to stay connected. Because the other thing I'm doing with this hand is what? Now I'm able to access, right? I'm able to access the tissue. And also lets her know that my other hand is here, right? So just a quick, like I said, a quick demo. I'm leaning in. Notice front leg. Notice this hand, and I leaned in, and we already knew what she thought of that. And forearm, I turned her leg, internally rotated it so I can expose more a T-band, and my forearm is now just leaning in there, right? I can do it like this. I can do it in prone. I can also put her in sideline position and work it that way. If I wanted to work lower leg, I can have a seat and I can now lean just like this, lean and work the lower leg just like that. Notice again, not a whole lot of effort on my end, and I'm leaning, I'm using gravity, I'm using my body, but I find a little area that I may want to work in, and you feel that right there?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Right? And I can work. Of course, if this were an actual session, I'd properly drape her. One thing I want you to keep in mind though, as you're sitting on the table, and is it okay to sit on the table? Okay, okay. As you're sitting on the table, make sure you're not torqued too much. Make sure your upper body is not torqued too much, right? So this is okay for me, but if this is not okay for you, then there are a billion other ways to do it, okay? For pecs and upper body, another great way that I love to do some work, I'm just going to keep this on like that, is again leaning, half leaning on the table, and here I am. Here's clavicle, here are pecs, and I love to work this way because it allows me to access pecs really well, and especially for women, and not feel like I'm in their business, right? Am I in your?
Do that over the sheet too.
You can do it over the sheet if you want. Am I in your business here? Does it feel like? No. And
You're on-
what?
No, not at all.
Not at all? Okay,
Feels
you tell
fine.
me. You tell me if I'm in your business here, right? And I can actually, even with large-breasted individuals, I can even move down and access pec, and now anchor that area, and then move hand so I can stretch it. And notice how I'm doing it. You may have been taught to do it this way. Maybe you were shown to do it this way, and that is actually the classic way of doing it. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But here, when I switch legs, now I'm lying on the table, now I'm leaning, now I'm actually using less effort. Now I'm actually using less energy, all right? And then as I do this also, this way, I can also lean back and work upper traps this way. And now I'm using whole table and exploiting gravity, using no muscle at all to work the upper traps. I can bring arm back down and then incorporate effleurage if I wanted to work the arm and then go off. So I can do a couple of these deep tissue moves within the scope of whatever the service is, either if I'm grounding, repatterning, or unraveling someone. I like the unraveling. Unraveling,
2 hours.
it's 2 hours. Better believe they're going to be unraveled then, I bet. Let's have you prone.
What?
Can I have you face down?
Oh.
Sorry. Civilian. Glutes. I love to work glutes and to lean on glutes. There's so many ways that you can work and lean on the glutes. One way you can do it, if you have the proportions, if the table allows, let's say you were doing a whole effleurage and doing this whole thing, right? I can also do an effleurage like this, to give them a little shake, and then here goes my forearm and my other arm, of course not on the spinal column, but right next to scapula. And here I am, here is the ilium, and I'm right on top of the glute attachments. Notice even in this case, I still have 1 foot forward because I have to get out of this situation, right? How am I going to get out of this situation? Am I going to push off on her? That's kind of rude, right? But one way I can do it is bend that knee and bring my head over my butt. Bring my head over my butt, and I can even integrate a little bit of work on my client that way. So I can work across the table. I can also work on the area, on the glutes next to me. And I can use this forearm this way, and now just leaning. Even though my knees are bent, I'm leaning. Other hand is here.
Good amount of pressure there.
Is that too much?
It's good.
Okay. This wrist, relaxed, right? I don't want to become the animal. Alex correctly stated that I already am.
It
Yeah.
was not a personal attack.
No, of course not. No.
Just an awareness.
Just yes, thank you. So here I am. I can also use this hand, this forearm, and if I do that, now I'm switching legs and I'm just sitting, half sitting, quarter cheek on the table, right? I can do it this way. In Brazilian, so I studied a little bit of my training in, or actually a good part of my training was in Brazil, and it was really cool because Brazilians are really interesting. There's a lot of movement in their life, and they always find kind of the cool way of doing things, where we did it like this, we may have been taught to do it this way or this way, right, and get that elbow in there, right? The Brazilians were doing it this way. They were just kind of leaning on the table looking really cool. Seriously, and then they even engaged the client to move their leg and do all sorts of interesting things. It's very, I saw that out there.
You do that.
What's that? Yeah, you do the
I
work.
do the work.
You can even use this arm, and you can bring this other leg into a stretch as you're working the upper glutes. You can bring this up in here, and you can move your forearm and now work SI joint. So you're gapping the SI joint. Eric Dalton has a great, in his videos, he does it this way, which is fantastic. Reminds me of Brazil, though. Reminds you of the way they do it in Brazil. So here I go. I can just hang out right in there. Be mindful. Absolutely be mindful of how you may be touching the client. right? If you think you're going to be sitting on their hand, just go ahead and move that arm off to the side. You know, last thing we want is to give the client a different mixed signals, right? I do believe that intention trumps everything, but you want to be safe for everyone's sake. So here's one way of doing it. And now we can also, let's say we did this whole effleurage and we went all the way back down, and we can work hamstrings, which is what I wanted to show you. This one move that I do is this kind of whole half body effleurage, if it's okay to do it here. Do it. So they're halfway draped, and you take it all the way up, and you come on down, and you do this, and then here, forearm is magically on glute. You can take it to glute. This hand, okay, you can take it down, and you can go down to hamstrings, and then this hand can go back down here to the foot, and here you are in that same place. Do it again. Whole body effleurage. Come on down just like that, and you can do it again. You can work, so you can do this forever. And you can work the hamstrings this way. You can work the hamstrings this way. You can work the hamstrings sitting on the table. One way I love to work the hamstrings, thank you, is just like this. But Marty, they're shortened. Don't you need to anchor and stretch? Yes, you can anchor and stretch. The Art Riggs method, absolutely beautiful. But you can also shorten them and work right in here. And when you said the unravel, this is what I imagined. Just kind of going in here and moving fascially, basically, unraveling the hamstrings. And you can just kind of open them up like that. You can do it this way. Or you can do, and notice, what am I doing? Just sitting here. Because they're shortened, I can get in there a little deeper without much effort. My fingers are like this, I'm not like this.
Can you feel like tension areas better since it's shorter?
Yes. Yes. Like this, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
How's that
So-
feel now?
It's good. Could be deeper.
It is just a demo.
So you can do this. So anyway, they give me my card. Anyway, so you can also do it this way. You know, you can hang out in here again, the anchor and stretch, right? And notice what I'm doing. I still have that lead foot forward, and I'm hanging out in here, and I can anchor and bring the foot down, anchor and bring the foot down. With the leg up, I can also work this way, right? Again, make sure that you're not torqued too much. I love to work the feet in prone. I love to work the feet in prone because I don't like to use my thumbs too much. Right? If you look at my hands, they're not really big and muscular, thank goodness. It's because I don't use a whole lot of muscle that way. I just use my whole self. So here, I love to just work the feet just like that. I can use forearm. I can use elbow. I can get into the pointy, get into some areas with my pointy elbow, right? If this is too low, if the table's too low, if I'm too high, then I can just get a pillow, prop her up. Notice though, my other hand is holding the foot like this, right? I don't want her foot on my crotch or anything like that. So here I am doing the feet, right? Back. Let me show you. So let's say, I took a look at the spaces, and you're lucky. You have space in these treatment rooms. You know, if you're thinking, what, really? Yeah, go out to other places. Go out to other places and check them out. You've got this little cramped area. The wall is here, and you're over here having to do an effleurage, right? You don't have that here, so that's great. So you can actually do a full-on effleurage if you want. I have one foot forward. I can come on over here. I can work the erectors if I want. Here are erectors. I can push them with the heel of my palm. I can use heel of palm. I can use fingers. I like to use my ulna as a blade and just lean in. And notice again, 1 foot forward, and I'm leaning in, and I can work the erectors that way. Is this okay right in here?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can take this all the way downtown here too if you want. I like to use fingers and just take the erectors out of the way and get into QL that way. So those are just kind of a few ways. Any specific questions at all? Specific areas?
I mean, there's always the shoulders.
Yeah, the shoulders. So, that's right. Let me show you the shoulders. So I love to have a seat in here, and here I can do the same thing with that blade and bring it all the way up. Or I don't have to go under erectors. I can just lean in and go up this way. And here are shoulders, right? What can I do with shoulders now that I'm in this position? Lean back. Ah, I love it. So here are the shoulders. I'm scooping in, and I've got the upper trapezius, right? It's really upper trapezius that we're going to be working, and really it's a lot of upper trapezius that people have overused. So I'm going to lean back, and it's almost as if I'm peeling it away. So my image is of peeling it back, right? I'm not compressing it against anything, which you could do, but I'm peeling it back. Very easy way. These shoulders feel great.
Alright.
The heck?
I'm a body worker.
Yeah. You need to give her more work. These shoulders are not. These shoulders are not. Oh, is that what happened? Is that what happened? Like, this is unlike anything I've ever felt.
Don't worry, Dana. You don't have to work harder.
No, you didn't know. So here I am, just peeling them back. I can work them this way. You know, I can work triceps this way too if I wanted to. I can work, let's say if I were sitting, if I were on a stool, I can also use forearm to work the shoulders. Notice the upper trap goes all the way up in here, so I like to anchor the upper trap with these fingers, and I'm not sinking in too much. I'm just creating that intentional anchor, and it already gives her that sense of stretching. So I can do it this way.
So you're not really
Oop,
putting
that
too
okay?
much
Yeah.
pressure on the occiput.
No, fingers are just kind of sinking in here, and it's already giving her that sense of stretch. Okay? I can make nice if I wanted to. Another way of doing it is also in sitting. Go ahead and let's have you
I do have one quick
sit
question
up.
before we move into sitting. I use a lot of my forms as well, but I find from time to time that I end up getting
Tightness in there.
tightness in here from repetitive movement with my shoulders, which maybe is just because I'm using too much muscle and not enough body weight.
So something you said, too much movement with your shoulder. And one thing that I see some people do, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you doing this whole thing? Are you moving?
A bit, but not
Okay, not a whole lot?
Not a whole lot.
So one thing I'd invite you to do is to not use, you can use the forearm as an effleurage, right, if you wanted to, but if you're doing deeper work, don't. If you're doing deep work, hang out. So a lot of the good stuff will happen if you just hang out with the deeper work, okay? But if you're gonna use it for movement, then it's gonna be a light effleurage type of thing. The other thing is keep it close to your body. If you're all the way over here, you might have to start to stabilize using all of this and all of this stuff. So if you're feeling that, you ask yourself, how can I do this differently? How can I do this more efficiently, more effectively? Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. And notice now that forearm, that whole arm is close to my body, right? There's no, you can come over here and feel this. There's no work being done up in here. So try it a little differently. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I feel like you just said a really important thing of not using the forearm as an effleurage
Right.
on a deep way.
Right.
Because then you're putting all this pressure on the joint in rotation, and that's a really easy way that you can hurt yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, with that or with any movement, just ask yourself, how can I do this differently? Is there a more effective way, right? For me to exploit gravity, for me to slow down, is there a more effective way for me to do it? And explore it. You know, you have a bunch of folks here that you can work with and you can do practicums with and you can workshop. Yeah. let's have you sitting. Please.
Can I just ask another question?
Yeah,
Along
absolutely.
with Elsa's question about the shoulder. I think I might be feeling similar thing with leaning and then sometimes feeling like either my body drops into my shoulder socket or I have to stabilize the shoulder with my muscles. And do you think that you can avoid that by, the way you're putting the rest of your body?
Partly.
Or do you stabilize the muscles like it in the shoulder?
Partly. I would like to see how you work, actually.
Yeah.
I would like to see how you do it. If you want, I would like to see you do it on Dana if you want. Right
Okay.
now, and so I can tell you.
Sure.
Because I have a sense of what you just did, what may be going on, but I'd like to see it.
Okay. Yeah, can you go back down?
Sorry.
I think I also overuse the same shoulder. But I do usually, do a
That's-
stance and lean.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I thought I saw, which
Going
is
the wrong way.
no, it's not. And again, there's no right or wrong. There is you were taught in a certain way, which is great, and it serves up to a point. So if you're doing that again, keep it light.
Well, actually,
You know?
I was meaning to just stay there.
Oh,
But
okay.
I was just getting into
Then if you're gonna stay there, change legs.
okay.
And see if that feels better for you, because when you're over here, notice this force is going up this way, and
Yeah.
now all of this has to stabilize.
Yeah.
But if I'm over here, now look at where the elbow is. It's going right up into the GH joint. No stabilization needed. How about in here? Nothing. Right? Oops, is that okay?
Yeah.
Right? And there are other ways to do it. If you're dealing with some sort of RSI, there's different techniques that you can employ to get them to a same level with zero effort. That's why I like MET, because MET is sort of like, okay, this didn't work, let's try this. Like, usually it works. And you can just do an MET, a muscle energy technique with folks, or you can just work, if you need to work piriformis or glutes, you can work it this way too, And now, let's change it up. Now it's even easier on you, and all of this now goes straight up into the arm, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, because I usually do this with, again, I'm going this way, but this is how I was taught to do this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how,
It's a lot of rotation in the back room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of twisting in there.
so would you, could I still do this technique in a different way?
Try changing your leg stance and leaning like how you was just doing it.
Yeah.
And sit
and,
on
and
the
sit on the table a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't get all the way. Yeah. I
Yeah,
have to,
that's fine.
I guess,
Good,
root
good.
for-
I mean, can I just say something? Like maybe if that feels like a reach, don't do it. And maybe this is just about, one is the hip and another one is maybe doing the switch around. So is it possible that that's two movements that might be, here you are and
Right.
pulling,
Right. Let me show me how you do it though. Let me see.
How I normally do it?
Yeah. Show me how
Okay.
you normally do it.
Okay, so I probably would actually have a
Okay.
arm over here.
And your goal is piriformis in that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just stay there. Ashley?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of muscle effort right in here,
Yeah.
right? Do your glutes get tired?
My low back.
Your low back, okay? I bet you there's a lot of glute work happening, and I bet you all of this is traveling up to low back. It looks like you're working a lot here, right? Which is, and I'm sure you're doing great work, but it looks like there's a lot of work happening back here too.
Yeah.
So let's change it up. Let's give you a different way. Let's see if a different way works. If you're doing piriformis, just try this. Easier for you. Keep this straight and just hang out, right? The other way that I would suggest is this way.
Okay.
This way, and then have them bring up their foot.
And then grab it or just have them?
Go ahead and flex your knee there, Dana. Bring your foot up as if you're going to kick me. Good. You can do that. Hang out right there. Notice how easily she did that one.
What about, can I just
slowly-
ask you, if you're having them do it themselves, aren't they going to be tightening up because they're using their muscle to?
They should be tightening up hamstring.
Right.
But if they're using glutes, that's a muscle imbalance. So they shouldn't be using
Okay.
glutes as much. If you're feeling that they're tensing up in here, tell them, go ahead and relax here where my forearm is and see if you can just use this. You know, now you're giving them a little bit more education. And then you can tell them, go ahead and bring that foot towards the wall, the round wall, nice and slow, and then towards Adrian, nice and slow. Good. And then towards the round wall again.
Getting people
Good.
want to get involved all the time.
All
They're like, let me help
And
you.
then go ahead
You
and
know?
bring it down, nice and easy. All right, just have them do it a little bit. Now try it and see if that. Try it. Try right now. See, just leaning in there. Do it.
Yeah, I've
The
never
James
done
Dean.
that backwards.
I call it the James Dean.
Is this how you teach new students, or do you teach? Is this more of an experience?
You mean?
How we teach the new students.
You mean, is it as good, or you mean? Sorry. New students, everyone, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Just
so
hang out. Yeah.
this hand is just doing nothing.
You can, yes, good,
Stabilize myself.
and do less work.
So I'm still feeling like a low back.
Can you get more on the table?
Sorry,
Sarah,
Dana.
that's okay.
And if you
If
just
no
relax,
physical clients,
Feels
I
fine.
feel like I
It
would
feels
be able
fine
to.
to have your body. That's
then
fine.
you just use a soft fist. Yeah, if they take up too much space, you can use a soft fist. But in this space, I just want you to feel not doing anything. How does it feel to relax and not do anything?
Well, I kind of have a low back issue, so it doesn't
Okay.
feel good on my low back.
Okay,
Right
okay, okay,
So I want to kind of like go this way
Okay.
to stretch it out
okay. And how does that feel when you do that?
better.
Okay,
Yeah.
that looks like a technique to me.
Okay.
That looks like something you could do.
Not tweaking anything.
And how does that feel for you?
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're
there you go.
I'm
Does it
craving
feel
some work
effective?
on the other side.
It's better than what she was doing a minute ago. It's more pressure than when, I don't know, right before that. This is better than what was
Yeah, I
before.
was actually just
You're-
that was because I
you're
was
probably-
just playing.
You're probably also like tightening up in there to keep that a little stabilized. But when you turned a little bit, you could relax and then you can lean in there. Let's have you sit up now. What
Thank
time?
you.
Yeah, thank you. What time do we have?
12:40.
Okay, so we're almost there. Yeah, is it okay for them to get on the table?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
We need a weekend workshop.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's not. So I have to kind of change things around. But you can work upper traps this way. And what I'm doing is I'm scooping. I'm doing this whole thing. Just imagine I'm scooping a nice big scoop of Dana right in here. And you can even have them slowly, go ahead and slowly bring left ear to left shoulder. Nice and slow. Side bend. Yeah, good. And then bring it back.
That's a good stretch.
Good. So you can do it this way if you want. I like to do one at a time. I know that some techniques will show like both at the same time, but guess what? What happens if I do that?
Your shoulder.
My shoulders go up,
Yeah.
and then I need work from you, and then so we don't want to do that. So I can hang out just like this, right? Another way to do it is actually to stand on the table. I have shoes on though, so I don't want to show that. But you could stand. Imagine me standing this way, and all of this is nice and straight, just like that. Right on upper traps. How much force do I need for that? Hardly anything. I'm just hanging out essentially, and then I can get her to do that. And anyone who tells you you can't break me, okay, let's try the traps this way, because now your whole body is behind that technique. My whole body is behind that technique, just like this. I would be standing right on top of her traps, just like this, right? And then having her do the lateral flexion.
Could you do that if you're standing on the ground and someone's sitting in a chair?
Yes, you could do
Does
it.
that work?
If someone's sitting on a low chair,
Okay.
right? If they're sitting on the floor, make sure they're stabilized. You may actually have to hold them a little bit and stabilize them. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other positions? No? You can do the same thing that I did with her prone, with her sitting. And I can grab it just like this and come on back down as if I'm peeling them away.
I do have one quick question. I
Yes.
find myself using, like, when I'm doing the neck and obviously the scalp, I'm obviously going to be using a lot more of my hands because it's
Uh-huh.
a smaller area, but I find, you know, I'll try to use a lot more of, like, my knuckles and such, but I find sometimes I use a little bit too much of my thumbs.
Yeah.
For the neck.
Yeah, just, it's because it's one of those things, like, I have double jointed thumbs, so it's really the last
Yeah,
area that
I
I
see
should
that.
be using in the first place.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I try to avoid it, but I find myself doing it regardless, and I guess I'm just trying to look for other, like I said, sometimes I'll try to use the knuckles, I'll try to, you know, avoid the thumbs, but I find myself using it anyway.
Okay. Can I have you face up?
Sure.
Head here. And do we have a stool or yeah, please, thank you. Yeah, you know, I did mention briefly in the book section. Ooh, perfect. Folks with hyperflexibility, some of the techniques may not work for you. You know, you're hyperflexible, then that's great, and let's find something else, right? So one thing I like to do is employ that principle of Swedish when I'm working here, and that is movement still. I know that this chair is moving a lot, but notice that I'm also moving. So when I'm working, I'm moving, and it's not just this. You know, when's lunch, right? I'm in here. The other thing about using your whole body is that it forces you to use your whole body. Using your whole self, right? So you're fully involved, you're fully present here with this person. And notice I'm not using thumbs, I'm not using knuckles. You could use knuckles, absolutely. You can go like this and like this. And when I do that, notice what I'm doing here. I'm actually moving my whole body. I'm rocking on my ischial tuberosities to do the
Not
work.
doing too much movement in the wrist area.
So, yeah, it's almost a little optical illusion because my wrist is still moving, but I'm not putting much force until I get to straightness. So when I'm doing this, it's all kind of show and glitter, but when I get to here, boom, that's the force that I'm actually doing. And then, you know, well, then boom, right? And same with neck. I'm moving. I like to tell my students, and all my students hear this, beginning, intermediate, advanced students, I like to tell them that pretend you're kelp in the ocean. Pretend you're like kelp in the ocean and you're just moving in the ocean just like that. So it helps me to employ proper body mechanics. And notice, where is the stroke coming from again? It's not coming from my hands anymore. It's not coming from thumbs or anything like that. It's coming from my whole self. Right? Coming from whole self doing the work. And she's gonna feel different. She's gonna feel different receiving this versus receiving this. And I'm trying to make this pretty good, but I'm just using my fingers. I'm just using fingers. You feel that difference? Yeah. What does it feel like? What's it feel like to you to get those two? What's the difference?
This one just feels fuller. That one feels like really local work, like that
Fuller.
one spot. Whereas this, it feels like maybe the whole upper body.
Interesting. More bang for your buck, maybe?
Yeah.
Ah, I think Deno likes that.
I guess.
What about getting into like specifically right at the joint of the occiput? Are you still gonna be like, you know?
I would love to. Oh, you know what? I have a neck class coming up in December. I'll send you the flyer. But
Well done.
I would love, yeah, thank you. I would love to show you some great techniques. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually getting splenius and trapezius, and I'm kind of picking it up and taking it away from the spinal column. So to kind of show you, folks over here, I'm doing this and I'm picking it up, and over here I'm right next to the spinal column. I'm picking it up and taking it with me. Okay, so I can do that. For occiput, I can do that good old occipital hold, and I love that. For deeper into the neck, if I'm working with suboccipitals or any of the multifidus deep in there, I will use my thumb. I don't recommend you do this because your thumb is just going to go wee, right? But what you can do is get off to the side, use thumb, keep it like this close to your hand, and just essentially you are pressing that muscle tissue up against the bone. So now you're using the bone as an aid.
Okay, so almost just kind of like using it like as a little scalpel of some sort, kind of.
Oh, I love how you think. I love the term. I use terms like scalpel and fillet and slice. And the last class I was in Davis just a few days ago, and they said, Marty, you have interesting terms for massage. But I like how you think. So here I am. So thumb is right there. So notice thumb is right there next to hand, and I'm going up. How much effort am I making? None.
What about
How
your
do you-
thumb?
And it's deep.
And it's deep.
About as much as I would want to go as far as pressure.
I can even lighten up a little bit. You know? Thumb is fine because it's straight.
Okay.
I'm not grasping either. I'm not grasping. I'm not grabbing. I'm just boom right up against her
Fingers
spinal
flat.
column.
Just goes like.
Yeah. Go check out the fingers on the other side. They're just hanging out. Yeah. So nice and easy way, and you can hang out there for a minute. Is that okay? Sorry, you're
That's
putting up
okay.
with a lot. Someone please massage this woman after she's done. She deserves it. So let me make nice. Actually, let me come on back here because that was gonna be, and it's just gonna be one side. So making nice. And notice even in sitting, I like to put 1 foot forward. I like to put 1 foot forward. That's just kind of my thing. I could do this, absolutely, but I like to have 1 foot forward even when I'm sitting. It gives me a little stability and allows me to move.
It helps
back and
keep the
forth.
chair from rolling too.
Helps keep the chair. You can just keep your foot over there on the chair. Yeah.
At this point, would you lift the head up, up like this, chin to chest stretches?
Oh, you know,
I mean,
that's a great question. I don't do those stretches.
okay.
I don't do that stretch in particular, but it feels good.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do it.
Because that's
Absolutely.
lifting the whole head.
Right,
So-
and if I'm lifting the whole head, I would probably do one of these, right? And then do my thing and come on back down. I do a movement with the neck that is specifically to derotate vertebrae, and I will go up in here and do this whole thing and then bring it back. So I will stand up to do that. Yeah.
Is there a reason you don't do that?
You know, I think it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I was never taught it, and I never really got into it. Yeah. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean it's not good.
Well, I think that
Right.
going this way anyway, in my opinion, like the back is usually already lengthened, and the front's already shortened. So in my opinion, like, what's the doing?
I'll buy
like
that.
Going
Yeah.
that way.
I'll buy that. Yeah.
Like
I'll buy
going the
that.
suboccipital.
Any other position? Any
I
other
do like
parts?
the feeling though for somebody that has, especially for people that have really kind of tight necks in the first place, I find that it really kind of like stretches that, that little area that people kind of get that hump,
Yeah.
I don't know, I like that with an opposite, like, stretching it, but then at the same time, letting it fall back the other way as well, just to, I don't know.
And
Very
what
nice.
about when you're doing the finger hold at the occiput? How, as far as your little fingers,
Yeah.
are you stabilizing your hand anyway, so that they're not working as hard?
With the fingers, my hands are cradling her head, and I have seen that there is a little finger strength that you have to develop.
Yeah.
But the only issues I've ever run into are overuse of thumbs. So that's what I have to be careful of. Most of the actually all of the RSI stuff that I've had has not been with massage. I was on the computer for 2 weeks straight, and that just nearly did me in a year and a half ago. My back from sitting, my shoulder, all of this. You're like, why does this hurt? I realized it's not the massage, it was the mouse. and all of that. So it's really interesting.
You can relate to most clients now.
I can
That's
relate.
there.
Yeah. So, let's see here. Any other areas? Oh, the feet. I want to show you real quick. You know, we all go in there and we all get in there with the feet, right? And I showed you how to work in it in prone, but you can also work in it in supine, absolutely. And I don't use thumbs. If I'm working the feet, I love to use knuckles, and I just straighten out my knuckles just like this. And I will use my other hand to bring the foot more into dorsiflexion to stretch the tissue as I'm working it. And this whole arm is not over here like this, right? If I do that, is that as efficient?
No.
No, it's not as safe either, right? And maybe effective, but not efficient or safe. So I bring that guy right in here close and use it almost like a lance, right? Like a jouster's lance. And I can go in here lean, maybe a little more oil, and then so I can have a little slide and slowly work my way down. I'm not sliding much here, but if I did, I feel a little easier. And then give her a stretch as I'm working my way down. So for me, that's kind of an easy way of working the feet. I can use this hand too, and I make sure that this is straight. So knuckles are straight, hand is straight, this wrist is straight, right? Why? Why would I want to do that? Because it looks cool, but besides that.
So you're not muscling.
So I'm
strain in the joint.
Exactly. If I'm stacking all these bones, if I'm aligning all these bones, then that allows that force to easily transfer through. That force being what? Gravity, right?
The lean.
The lean. I'm still leaning in there. And I don't have to use thumbs. Using thumbs, you're using a lot of muscle to make that force go this way, right? Because my hands are over here, and my thumbs are over here, so I'm doing this. And then who's having to do the work? These muscles here. In this case, no muscle, just bone. Just stacking up the bone. Alrighty.
I have a quick question. I mean, in petrissage, there's no way to get around using your thumbs, really, is there?
Ah, great question. Let's say this is Let's say this is a petrissage that I'm doing, right? Let's say this is a petrissage, right? Petrissage. But what's happening here is that she is actually now the recipient of not just my grasping force. She's now the recipient of what? My whole movement, my whole self, right? So the thumbs are there, but the thumbs are kind of like the guy that was invited at the party. It's like, who's that guy? Who invited him at the party? I don't know, but he's here, right? So I'm not grasping, right? I'm not really grasping. They're not involved, right? They're just there. They're just hanging out, right? So she's feeling it. If she had pants off, then she would probably feel it a little more. And again, she would feel the same thing that she felt, that she described when I was on her neck. That it felt like it was this whole thing happening, right? If you wanted to get a little more local, then something else. Not thumbs, right? Maybe knuckles, maybe fingers, maybe even your elbow in a little tiny place. You know, I would do this or do this if I found a spot that I wanted to hang out in. And then the petrissage is, again, meant to what? It's meant to be at a more superficial level. So there you go. So hopefully try that without the thumbs and see if that
So you're
if that works.
you're still grasping, but not as strongly because you're using your whole body.
Right. And I don't even know if I am
Yeah, no,
grasping.
I'm watching from this side. His thumbs are just kind of flowing.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not
I'm not really. Yeah, I'm not really squeezing. Yeah, they're kind of just hanging out. Again, they're that guy that, who's that guy, right? So.
It's probably a little harder to do like at the top of the traps though, because it's a smaller.
So if you're at the top of the traps and you want to do in prone or supine.
Usually prone.
Yeah, and you're doing this, right? Or you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
So try that other technique where you're instead pulling it back, Because a client isn't going to get upset if they walk out of here saying, dang, I didn't get that petrissage on the upper shoulder, right? They're going to get upset if they like, dang, I didn't get that area worked on, right? They don't care about the specific technique. They want that goal. They want that goal met. So try a different way. Yeah, great.
Do we have a couple more minutes, or?
I think we do, right? We have
1 o'clock now.
it's 1 o'clock. All right, it's 5 minutes. Yeah.
Could we just have her turn around again? And,
Yes.
And could you show some stuff for like
Okay.
around here?
Rhomboids.
Yeah. Just hang your head off.
Good stretch.
So, one thing that I see people do is they work rhomboids like this, and they go all the way down, right? And I gotta get to that rhomboid. Well, what's happening here when you do that?
Lower back.
Right, and right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do it differently. Let's try something else. So, and notice when I'm going this way, right? Is my body behind my tool? Am I using all of this mass for the work? No. I'm now using just my arm, right? So if I get behind the tool and I put all of this pizza eating mass behind that elbow, now I can, and now look, I've got this foot forward, and now I can lean in. And remember, rhomboids are like this, right? And if I go this way, right, they're like this. And if I go this way, I'm going cross fiber, right? I can also go with the fiber, with fingers, warm it up, this and that, and then I can lean in there. Notice what I just did right now. Instead of doing this, I actually stuck my butt out a little bit. That allows me to lean into her a little more, right? I can use my ankles, but now I'm relaxing, and if I relax, she's going to feel it a little bit more. In actuality, if you use some of these techniques, you're going to have to hold back. You're going to have to hold back because you're going to be able to use too much pressure. Remember, 45 PSI is a lot for this work. So I am actually holding back just a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. If I did more, would it be too much?
Perhaps.
Yeah. So we're going to hang out just as we are. How much pressure, how much effort am I making? None. Just hanging out. And then I can do a whole effleurage and then come on over here to this guy and do the same thing. Switch legs now. Relaxed wrist. This hand is over here. I can even give the tissue a stretch with this hand. Nice and subtle stretch. Or I can just hang out if I need to.
But you're not putting any weight over here.
Not
Are
a
you
whole lot.
stabilizing yourself?
I'm stabilizing myself. I'm not perceiving a whole lot of weight. How much weight are you perceiving here when I'm with this hand?
Just a little.
Just a little. Okay. And this is relaxed. So I can do it this way. I actually love to do it this way. Really easy. This way, soft fist is kind of a medium stroke. I don't get a whole lot of bang for my buck, but a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit of bang for my buck. But this I really love. Here's scapula. Here's spinal column. Here's my forearm, elbow.
That's a good one.
Okay, good.
Would you do anything this way?
Which direction is your arm going? Show me. Yeah, see that.
Or maybe not even like moving, but just to get access like right along here, or
See, the reason I don't do that is because now your whole body, you're going this way, right?
well, I could be moving, but I could just be kind of sinking.
You know, if you're sinking and you're going this direction,
Mhm.
notice that you're using a lot of this
Yeah.
to do that. So I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I wanted to get in here, if I wanted to get underneath,
Mhm.
I might actually put them in side-lying position and put this part down and bring the arm back, and then I can easily sink in there. Or I can go in here and just easily sink in here with my fingers. Like
Yeah, I think like for a lot of us, we mostly get hours and hour and a halves.
that. Okay.
And with the hours, it tends to be they want most of the full body
Right.
plus like shoulders, neck, or something
Right,
like that. So
right,
like
right,
throwing
right.
them in like a ton of different positions kind of loses time.
Yeah. So just working in here, try it this way. And you can actually go in here with the forearm. And you know, one thing that I see is that a lot of folks feel like they need to get in here to work this whole area, but if you work other areas, you actually affect this area.
Right.
You know, I'll give you a hint. Whenever they have a lot of this, check TL junction.
Yeah.
Check T8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? Check pelvis.
Mhm.
Work glutes and see how loose this becomes. Sometimes this gets tight because this isn't moving.
Mhm.
Sometimes this gets tight because this isn't moving. This isn't moving on a lot of folks, the TL junction. So hang out in here too. And you can spend some time here, definitely, right? The customer's always right sometimes. So definitely, for sure, get them in here and work it. But work the other areas also with intention to loosen this top part up.
A lot of times it's a lot of like chest type.
Right.
Look at front and back, absolutely. You know, and if this is tight, if it's pecs go all the way down to, pecs have an abdominal tie. So you can actually, if you can work pecs in here, work a little bit of rectus abdominis. See if you can separate it from external oblique, and that will also give them this lift, this length. A lot of that is in the SI class. Alrighty, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For